So I portioned Jericho's food all in one container for one day, and I put that in the refrigerator 24 hours before needing it. So when I feed breakfast, I put one of his frozen containers into the refrigerator for the next day. That night, I will portion it into 2 containers so that I have 2 servings and 2 separate dishes because he eats 2 meals a day. I also add a little bit of water to his food. For his meal that I'm currently about to serve, I will put that container in a warm water bath, and I keep the food in a sealed container because you don't want to rinse off the juices and the nutrients. That myoglobin is rich in nutrients. So I'll keep this in the warm water bath for about 10 minutes if there's bones and whole prey, because they take a little bit longer to warm up to room temp. If it's only meat and organs, then I'll just do about 5 minutes. Like in the morning, he doesn't eat bones, so I just do about 5 minutes in the morning. You can check the water if it gets cold. Sometimes I find that with the chicken wing drums, since they're bigger, it might cool down the water, so before that time is up. So I'll just dump it, put new warm water in it. And I feed Jericho on this food grade silicone mat because it's nice and flat, it's large. I like to spread it out just so he has space to walk around and chew. And if he's being super picky about his food, I will use this magic freeze-dried beef liver, and I break off a tiny little piece, crush it between my fingers so that it becomes dust, and that's his little garnish smell attractant. I also do this with salmon, anything really that has a strong smell. But if you're only using a tiny bit, it's not going to add like a big boost of nutrients. Really, you're just using it for the smell attractant. But ever since I've been portioning out Jericho's daily sardines into each container, he's actually eating his food without the smell attractants. So he loves that fishy smell and those sardines, and it's only about 6% of his diet, so I'm not like overdoing it with the fish. He just gets small amounts in the morning and in the evening. So some overall rules as a recap when you're thawing and serving raw food. You'll always want to thaw raw food in the refrigerator at least 24 hours before you need it. If you're thawing a huge block of food, you might need longer than that. The other alternative is to put it in a cold water bath. Remember to keep everything in a sealed container just in case there's holes or anything in the bag. You want to make sure that those nutrients in the liquid don't leach out into the water. You don't want to rinse off those nutrients. So you can keep it in a cold bath, make sure the water stays cold. It likely will if the food is frozen. So that's a quick way to thaw it. And you don't want to thaw meat at room temperature out on the counter for hours. You're just going to invite the growth of bacteria if you do that. You don't want to use the microwave because that's going to cook it, and frankly, using a microwave is not good anyway. When you're serving the food, you want to include all of those juices. So that liquid that comes out of muscular meat, that's actually myoglobin and not blood. So myoglobin is a protein that adds that red tint to the to the liquid. It's also good moisture, so you want to make sure you include those nutrients when you're feeding the food. The other thing you want to do is when you're serving your food, serve it on a flat surface, as flat as you can get it. A shallow plate works fine, but the flatter you can get it, the better. So I like the food grade silicone mat that I use. There's a little lip on the edge of it so that liquid doesn't spill off of the mat, but it isn't high enough to cause problems. The reason that we use flat surfaces is because out in the wild, cats eat on the ground, which is flat, but they also have nerve endings in their whiskers, and they don't like it when things touch their whiskers while they're eating or drinking. This has caused whisker stress, also called whisker fatigue. So constantly feeling things, plus if you're using a bowl, it might, when your cat's licking, the food might go up the sides and it might be difficult for the cat to eat it. So as flat as you can get it is better. You'll also want to avoid plastic. Plastic traps bacteria no matter how many times you wash it. You might notice that there's some chin acne that happens typically when we're feeding our cats on plastic dishes. So better to use ceramic or stainless steel or glass. Like I mentioned, the food grade silicone mat that I use, everything that you need is linked in the description. Don't leave raw food out for longer than I would say about 20 minutes. Your cat should finish up his food within that time. Jericho's, it's like not even 1 minute. But if your cat isn't finishing all of the food within that time, you can scoop it up, put it in a sealed container, put it back in the refrigerator, and then serve it at his next meal. And I would say after the next day, if he doesn't eat it, just toss it. It's probably going to be a small amount anyway. Of course, never feed any food that has an off smell, but cats' noses are much stronger than ours, so they might be picking up something that's just off or not fresh about the food. So just feed him the next day, and then I would say toss it. Sometimes I do that with the egg yolks. He doesn't always eat all of it. Sometimes he leaves the little pieces behind, and I'll just add it to his food and he'll eat it the next day. And you can check out this playlist right over Meow from my Cat Nutrition 101 course if you're ready to take the next step and formulate your cat's raw food. Thank you so much for watching.